There's a moment in every man's life when the world goes quiet. Not because everything is peaceful, but because something inside him stops pretending. He looks around and realizes he's built a life that doesn't feel like his. It's not a crisis, not yet, but something subtle has started to unravel. The goals that once felt urgent now feel empty. The mask he's been wearing no longer fits. If you're a man in your 20s or 30s, you've started to feel this strange, quiet discontent. You're not broken, you're not lazy, and you're definitely not alone. What you're experiencing is something Carl Jung understood deeply, that sooner or later, every man must confront the parts of himself he left behind in order to survive. And when that confrontation begins, the soul starts to stir. This isn't a breakdown, it's the beginning of a transformation. A slow, painful, beautiful unraveling of everything you thought you had to be, so you can finally uncover who you truly are. You spend the first 20 years of your life becoming who you're supposed to be. Not who you are, but who the world needs you to be. You learn to adapt, to fit in, to perform. You figure out which parts of yourself are rewarded and which ones are not. Maybe you become the smart one, or the funny one, or the strong one. You build a mask, what Jung called the persona. The persona isn't fake, it's functional. It helps you survive in a world that doesn't have time for your full complexity. And for a while, it works. You get praise, you move forward, you start stacking achievements like proof that you're doing something right. But eventually, usually somewhere in your mid to late 20s, that mask starts to feel heavy. You're still playing the role, but it doesn't feel like you anymore. You laugh at the right times and say the right things, but inside there's this low-level ache. Like something important is missing, and you don't even know what it is. You start to question things you never questioned before. Why am I doing this? Who am I trying to impress? Is this all there is? The strangest part is that nothing catastrophic has happened. Your life might look fine on paper, but deep down it feels like you're drifting through someone else's dream. And when you try to talk about it, people don't really understand. They tell you to be grateful, to stay focused, to keep pushing forward. But how do you push forward when you're no longer sure where forward is? This is the collapse of the persona. It's not loud, and it does not come with warning signs, but it shakes something foundational in you. Jung believed that this moment is necessary because the mask must crack before the real self can emerge. What you're feeling is not failure. It's the beginning of a deeper integration. The moment when your soul starts knocking, asking to be seen. And once that knocking starts, you can't unhear it. Once the persona begins to crumble, something deeper rises to the surface. Something you've spent most of your life avoiding. At first, it's subtle. You start remembering things you didn't know you'd forgotten. Moments that made you feel small. Times you swallowed your anger. Dreams you abandoned because they felt impossible or inconvenient. And then it gets louder. You find yourself irritated by things that never used to bother you. Or maybe you feel nothing at all. Just a quiet numbness where passion used to live. Some nights your thoughts spiral. Other days you feel like a ghost in your own life. What you're experiencing is the emergence of the shadow. Carl Jung described the shadow as the hidden parts of ourselves, not just the shameful or bad, but anything we've repressed, denied, or disowned. These aren't random emotions. They're messages from the depths of your psyche, fragments of you that were cast aside in order to fit in, to be accepted, and to survive. And now that your social mask is cracking, they finally have the space to speak. But here's the problem. You weren't taught how to listen to them. You were taught to fix, to perform, and to keep moving, to suppress the discomfort with discipline or dopamine, to choose validation instead of reflection. So when the shadow surfaces, most men panic. They distract themselves, numb themselves, or worse, project their pain onto the people around them. But the truth is, this descent is necessary. It's not a breakdown, it's a confrontation. You are being called to face the parts of yourself you've never fully met. The sadness you inherited but never grieved. The anger you suppressed to keep the peace. The longing you silenced in order to be logical. This isn't a clean or comfortable process. It's raw. It's disorienting. And it often feels like losing control. But paradoxically, this is where real self-possession begins. Not by rejecting the darkness, but by acknowledging it as part of you. Because only when you descend into the shadow can you begin the slow climb towards wholeness. At some point, the noise gets too loud. Not outside, but inside. You've done everything right. You wore the mask, you performed the role, you buried your shadow deep enough to survive. But now, you don't want to just survive. You want to live. This is when something shifts. Not all at once, but it starts with a question. A quiet, inconvenient question that pokes a hole in the life you thought you wanted. What is all of this for? At first, it's easy to brush off. You distract yourself, you scroll a little bit more, work a little harder, maybe go out for the weekend. But the question lingers. It follows you into silence. It echoes at night when the noise dies down, and eventually it wins. This is where the journey begins, not with the answers, but with honesty. You stop lying to yourself about what success looks like. You stop pretending you're fulfilled when you're just functioning. You start seeking something more. You start reading books you used to mock. You journal, you meditate, you walk without music just to hear your own thoughts. You become aware of the parts of you that you ignored for years. The boy who used to wonder. The man who wants something sacred. The voice inside that's been whispering, "There's more than this." Jung called this the beginning of individuation, the slow, messy, courageous process of becoming your whole self. It's not self-improvement, it's self-confrontation. You stop chasing what makes you look good, and you start searching for what makes you feel true to yourself. You're not trying to be perfect anymore, you're trying to be real. And maybe for the first time in your life, you're finally facing the right direction. At the end of all of this searching, you start to realize something strange. You weren't looking for something new. You were trying to remember something old. Not a career, not a philosophy, not a goal, but a feeling. The feeling of being whole. Of waking up and recognizing the man in the mirror, not because he's successful, but because he is you. This is what Jung understood. That the path isn't about fixing yourself. It's about integrating the pieces that you left behind. The mask, the shadow, the seeker. You carry them all. And through that integration, you stop drifting. You stop escaping. You stop wondering if your life matters, because it does. Not in some loud, grand, dramatic way, but in the quiet choices you make each day to live with truth, to walk with integrity, to become the man only you were meant to be. And that is when the soul search ends, and your real life begins. Thank you for watching, and best of luck on your path towards integration.